For 3 days, we've been pounded. Storms slamming the state with snow up north and rain everywhere else.
I've never seen a storm like this before, ever.
The rainfall amounts dumped on the state have broken records, causing rivers to rise and forcing evacuations.
Cronkite Newswatch starts right now.
Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Cronkite Newswatch. I'm Lindsay Reiser. In the past 24 hours, the state has survived tornado warnings, blizzard warnings, and flood warnings, and it's not over yet, as the National Weather Service predicts even more snow and rain before the storms finally move out of our state. We have team coverage with reports from Sedona, Wickenburg, Clarkdale, and Tonto Basin. We begin with Heather Turner, who spent the night in Sedona, where residents were preparing for rising floodwaters.
As Sedona braced for what some predicted would be the most devastating flood in decades, one man was going against the odds, risking his life, all to save his house.
It's my home. Yeah, it's my kid's home. Got to try and save it.
Filling sandbags was just the beginning. Justin Williams spent hours preparing his home along Oak Creek. He and fellow residents near the creek were told to expect the worst.
We just advised them that they could be in serious danger.
And history has taught this father of three that if those predictions come true, his children would have to find a new place to play.
This will be the third that I'll have been a part of, but the 2 times before we've kept the water out. We've had it surrounded by 4 feet of water and kept the water out. So, but if it comes up another 4 feet, I don't know if there's anything I can do.
Although local police volunteers were advising that his neighborhood evacuate, Justin refused, insisting he would rather fight the storm and try to save his house.
I'm not going to go. You know I'm not going to.
But as the sun came up this morning, it was clear that the flood levels would not reach the forecasters' predictions. And after all of his preparation, Justin Williams says he'd rather be safe than sorry.
Although the levels only rose to about 7 feet last night instead of the predicted 20, there is still a potential for high floods again tonight. But Justin says he's prepared to fight to save his house one more time.
I'm glad I didn't lose everything.
In Sedona, Heather Turner, Cronkite News.
I'm Maxine Park in Tonto Basin, northeast of the valley, where it was a long night for people trapped by the rain. It started early in the day and continued to slam the area throughout the night.
It's a mess out there.
Things got so bad that mandatory evacuations were ordered. Many people escaped to this Red Cross shelter at the local elementary school, where officials were just trying to keep everyone comfortable through the long night.
We supply them with water and food and nourishment and shelter from the storm.
Angelica Knudsen was one of the people who went looking for higher ground. She says the rain was unbearable.
It was really like hitting the windows and stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to be by myself. So I grabbed my kids and we came here.
Now just about 1 hour ago, this road right here was not closed, but as you can see behind me, this has become a literal river of water, rising already a couple of feet just within a matter of minutes, and the rain and wind don't seem to be letting up anytime soon.
From my legs down, I'm soaked.
People are getting trapped behind the water, and so there's a great effort to get those people out.
Everyone managed to get out safely, and Angelica says this is a storm she won't soon forget.
Never seen a storm like this before, ever.
In Tonto Basin, Maxine Park, Cronkite News.
Gila County officials tell us that Tonto Creek crested earlier this morning at nearly 17 feet, causing even more flooding in the area. Parts of the Highway 87 leading into Tonto Basin are expected to remain closed indefinitely. And it was also a long night for the folks in Cottonwood who kept a close eye on the rising Verde River. They were worried that the Verde River could possibly rise to 27 feet overnight. People began voluntarily evacuating their homes and animals late yesterday, and Mayor Doug Von Gauzig was one of the people keeping a close eye on the river. He has a house on the shore of the Verde and was here in 1993 when the waters flooded the area, causing a lot of damage. You can actually see from the waterline on the rocks just how high the flooding reached back in the 1993 flood, when some people had to be evacuated by boat. Mayor Gauzig says this time the advanced warning from the Weather Service put the town in a much safer position.
It's allowed us to go and actually visit every home that we expect to be in the flood area, notify those residents that they need to get out. So we've given them ample warning to get their belongings out and the important things.
The Red Cross opened up an evacuation shelter in Cottonwood at Mingus High School overnight for anyone who needed a place to stay. People living in Wickenburg west of the valley know all too well the dangers of rain like this. More than 4 inches fell on Wickenburg in the past 24 hours, and that could mean trouble. Lindsay Curtis spent the day with residents as the Agua Fria River started to swell and now joins us live in Phoenix. Lindsay?
Well, people in Wickenburg aren't breathing easy just yet. While the skies right now look clear, there are still scattered showers, and the threat of more rain is making some longtime residents nervous.
This place here is called the Hassayampa Sink.
It's called the Hassayampa Sink for a reason. It's one of the lowest areas in Wickenburg, Arizona, and when it rains...
So what happens, all the water will accumulate and all the washes can come down, and then it will accumulate enough where it really flows hard.
Tony has called the sink home for 30 years. His home has had minimal flood damage, but some of his neighbors weren't so lucky.
I think it was around 2003. I had a friend that had 2 homes, and the Hassayampa River came up so fast, it took both of his houses, and I watched them go underneath the main bridge over the Hassayampa.
Right behind me is the spot where Tony says he watched 2 of his friends' houses float right down this river. And Wickenburg residents are hoping that this year, history doesn't repeat itself. Luckily, new bridges were built last summer in an effort to avoid more flood damage.
It'll be a test if it really comes up to base, see how good they did the bridges.
Tony is optimistic about the new bridges, but he remains cautious whenever it rains.
You might have that 100-year flood that's going to come.
For now, he continues living in his house in the sink, hoping it doesn't float away. This is the first time that a major storm has hit since they built the new bridges, and so far the new bridges have seemed to withstand the high waters. Live in Phoenix, Lindsay Curtis, Cronkite News.
We're going to start by taking a look at the satellite radar here across Arizona. If you notice the movement right here, those are the showers we saw early in the valley this morning. If you notice also this storm system here towards Southern California, that's going to move across Arizona. Northern Arizona is going to see some more snow. We're going to see some more rain here in the valley. Now we have a ton of weather alerts here across the whole western part of the United States. Right here in Maricopa County, we're looking at a flash flood warning that'll expire later this evening. If you notice, though, a ton of pink around the state right now. Those are some winter storm warnings. Most of them expire tomorrow between 11 and 12 p.m. Now, like I said, the northern part of the state did get hammered by snow yesterday. We're going to go ahead and take a look at those snowfall totals. Flagstaff saw over a foot yesterday, pushing them at 40 inches. Pine Top at 36, Belmont 32, Grand Canyon 29 inches. Now instead of snow, the valley saw rain yesterday and we saw plenty of it. Sky Harbor getting just under an inch, Mesa 1.5 inches, Tempe and Chandler just over an inch. Now we talked about that storm system moving on over to Arizona from California. It's going to hit right here tomorrow, Saturday. Another opportunity for rain and snow for the northern part of the state. If you notice, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, plenty of clouds as that storm system lingers over the state and heads on out eastward. But we're looking at beautiful temperatures there in the 60s.
And Mother Nature has let up enough today for Sky Harbor to get back to business. This was the scene late yesterday at Sky Harbor Airport when hundreds of flights were either delayed or canceled. As a matter of fact, Southwest Airlines canceled 120 flights. The good news, most of the flights today have been able to take off on time. And quite a scene for the people flying over Tempe Town Lake today. Salt River Project has closed the lake and deflated its dams to try to make way for the runoff water headed down the Salt River. Water was rising to 15% over the lake's capacity when SRP made the decision to release the dam. It was a sight to see for many people who took advantage of a break in the clouds to get a closer look.
I take this cool any day over a hot August afternoon.
Tempe Town Lake is expected to remain closed through the weekend. So far, state transportation officials say they have no reports of major storm-related structural damage to bridges or highways. But Maricopa County is keeping a close watch on this bridge in Gilbert. They're deciding whether or not to close the bridge over the Salt River between the 202 and the Beeline Highway. Their concern is that it might not be able to handle the water runoff down here in the valley. So far, the bridge is holding steady. Another problem being caused by all the rain, potholes. This was the scene this morning at 8th Avenue and Jefferson, where a sinkhole opened up. Minor construction took place here days before, making the spot susceptible to erosion. The hole measured 8 feet by 3 feet, and city workers were able to cover it up before there were any accidents. And potholes weren't the only things being cleaned up today. Out in North Scottsdale, crews had to get things back into shape after high winds flipped tents and fences at the Russo Steel car auction. Parts of the Loop 101 were closed for hours after Poles and other debris from the tents flew into the road. Luckily, only minor injuries were reported, but car show officials say the wind caused about $1.5 million of damage to the high-priced cars. Thanks for joining us for the special storm coverage. Now we'll return you to our normal programming on ASU TV. I'm Lindsay Reiser. Good night.